read this message named Disagreements. Remember that people differ widely from each other, and therefore they have their own way of reacting. Clarify on the basis of fraternal understanding without causing controversy. To antagonize constantly is to be in a process of collecting antipathy. You can clearly disagree without upsetting as long as you talk your respect the other person's right. Remove aggressive words from your vocabulary. People want to be themselves when dealing with responsibilities, just as we do ourselves. There are innumerable ways of helping without hurting other people's feelings. And usually, we never are with strangers, but with our loved ones. Therefore, should we disturb those, we should live in peace. Let us learn to make concessions to unimportant matters so that we can be faithful to the essential ones. If anybody says that stone is a fact piece of wood, we should respect his point of view. However, if someone takes a stone or a piece of wood to hurt somebody, then it's important to explain about the impropriety of his insane action.
Dear God, we thank you for being here one more time, together with friends, to study the Spirit's book. May we open our minds and our hearts to learn and to make all the changes we can already make to be a better person. So be it.
Welcome everyone for us to carry on our studies as we do on a weekly basis about the Spirit's book, ourselves and all of those in the Spirit who may be with us, also taking advantage of this possibility for us to reflect about the universal laws, which we are coming to the end of the Spirit's book through weekly meetings, and we carry on today on the conclusion where we ended last week. And the conclusion, we are on part 5. It's quite intense, but we go gradually through and we learn. And then the conclusion is presented by the thought and the thinking and the wisdom of St. Augustine, who is helping us to understand bit by bit a bit more about the natural laws, who we are within them, what we can learn about as immortal beings, as we are essentially spirits, beings of goodness, who are once more on earth for us to carry on our learnings. And even those who are here with us in the Spirit, the universal laws are equal for all of us. We finished last week on this slide. I will just reading for us to situate that it makes sense for us to carry on then. Is the conclusion from the Spirit's book, part 5, St. Augustine says, "Through simple reasoning, I find in it a rational discussion of the most pressing problems relating to my future. It provides me with peace, security, and confidence. It frees me from the torments of uncertainty. In comparison to that, the question of material phenomena is secondary. As for those who assail Spiritism, I respond, would you like to fight against it successfully? If so, simply replace it with something better. Find a more philosophical solution to all the problems it resolves. Give people another certainty that will render them happy." How would we translate that, just for us to situate ourselves? What is our understanding about it?
I think we discussed last week how important to study Spiritism is for us, because it answers all the questions we have relating to where we came from, where we're going to, and also how we can live a better life here on earth, and why we are here on earth.
Correct. And then from that point onwards, we carry on. If you just reflect here, who are we?
We are immortal spirits.
Immortal spirits. Where did we come from? From the spiritual world, which is our natural residence, let's say. And what is the purpose for us to be here on earth?
It's to evolve.
To evolve, to progress in relation to what?
We were created ignorant. We didn't develop all the virtues, so we come here to train and develop them.
The
As
virtues,
well as our
intellectual and emotional intelligence, and also we could say even the spiritual intelligence, because we are spiritual beings in essence, so we are here to carry on our journey of evolution according to the natural laws of life, developing the real atemporal values, correct? So that in mind, we carry on then here. And St. Augustine continues, however, you must thoroughly understand the reach of what word certainty, because people only accept as certain what appears to be logical. Do you think it is enough to state that something does not exist? Denying something is too easy. Go beyond simple denial and prove through solid facts that it is not willable, never has been and never can be. And in such a case, state clearly what you would put in its place. So what do we learn here now, continuing the development of St. Augustine's teachings? What comes to our minds when we read, when we heard? How do we understand this bit here now?
I think he's saying that we are entitled to have our opinion, but if we wanted to say that something doesn't exist, we need to back up our argument, not just say it on the music. But he said through logic, just explain why.
And our explanation or our reasoning would be based on what?
I think if we deny Spiritism, we base on matter or materialistic point of view.
So we are invited here to develop our reasoning, our thinking in relation to the universal laws. Is almost like helping us to go beyond the materialistic viewpoints or the materialistic concepts that we also inherit from our previous experiences, isn't it? Because we are all evolving, so all the field of knowledge are also evolving. Yeah. Anything else here? So it's really challenging us not just deny it, but give a reason for that, go deeper. Because denying, as he says, is not ignoring it. It's just we say, no, it doesn't exist, but we need to study in order to understand what it means actually, isn't it? Go beyond simply denial and prove through solid facts that is not willable, never has been and never can be. And in such a case, state clear what you would put in its place. When we develop ourselves from a spiritual perspective, ourselves, the universe, within the natural law of progress, of evolution, when we develop our reasoning in that way, in that direction, can we go back to the old systems? No, why not?
I mean, do you know about the Spiritism? It's not possible because they say you deny. I think someone just denying they don't know. They need proof for things.
Okay. So when they need proof, what is St. Augustine reminding us? Would I be right in saying in relation to the scientific aspect of Spiritism? Is that right? Because what we learn now through the teachings of the superior spirits, we know that are the teachings of the enlightened beings. Yes? Is that what we say? Has that been given through the scientific aspect of Spiritism? What is the scientific aspect of Spiritism?
Science, philosophy.
No, Spiritism is science, philosophy, and religion. But what is the scientific aspect of Spiritism? You were about to say?
All the things that Kardec did in the spiritual manifestations, and he was writing the spirit book as well as the medium book.
Okay.
So there was this study about the spiritual manifestations. It wasn't just me guessing.
Okay, was all a scientific research and therefore the proofs, the outcomes. Bear in mind that Spiritism is a sign which deals with the nature, the origin and destiny of the spirits and their interaction with the corporeal world. Is that right? So that has been studied scientifically by Allan Kardec. Are we clear here? So now we move on then, as we carry on gradually. And then St. Augustine says, furthermore, proof that Spiritism has not rendered human better and therefore happier by encouraging the purest gospel-orientated morality. A morality that is very much praised but very little practiced. If we stop here, what do we understand with this first phrase in relation to the teachings of St. Augustine? What is he trying to tell us?
Spiritism is a science or a doctrine that teaches to educate ourselves to become better beings based on the gospel or the teachings of the gospel. That's why it makes us happier.
And what are the teachings of the gospel that makes us happier as immortal beings?
I believe it's everything that Jesus taught us. Kardec has a lot of examples. He talks a lot throughout the codification about order, about being prudent, about being honest, about being humble.
So teaching us to be humble. For us who are beings in evolution throughout centuries, what is the benefit of learning to be humble? Humble is a virtue, yeah? So is immortal value. So what are the benefits in learning to be humble? What are the benefits for us to be humble? Us as immortal beings who are now, through a new existence again, granted the possibility to change and to improve ourselves. So what are the benefits to learn to be humble? My question would be before that, why do we need to learn to be humble?
Humbleness is the opposite of pride. Pride is what keeps us away from
Suffering.
progress.
So pride and selfishness is what we developed quite a lot throughout our evolution, and those are the reasons of our sufferings. And now when we are invited to learn to be humble, and humbleness is the greatness of the soul, then we learn now to address and re-educate ourselves and practice those, let's say, superior or immortal values which are the virtues within us. Yeah? Then it's also through humbleness, isn't it easier to deal with our daily experiences? Yeah? Which kind of experiences may we find challenging on a daily basis without humbleness? To forgive. So someone harms us or someone does whatever it is. If we are full with pride and selfishness, we may find it difficult to forgive and therefore we suffer. So if we learn to be humble, it's easy to forgive. What means forgiveness? Within the gospel-orientated guidelines. Forgiveness, would it be right in saying, is to develop the ability to accept people as they are and choose to change ourselves for better day by day? Is that making sense? Accepting people as they are, even if they have been rude with us, is merely learn to trust a process which is greater than us. Which is that process? The love that comes from God. Because what other people do to us, that is their process. What we do with us is our responsibility. Is that clear? Now, another example that we can develop based on the teachings of the gospel. What is the gospel?
So, for example, the Gospels of the disciples and all of them.
Okay. So we could also is correct, and we could also say in a different way, the good news that Jesus brought to humanity. Yes, the good news, which are the real values that are helping us to practice goodness within. And what is the consequence of practicing goodness within ourselves? What is the result of that?
Oh, sorry, no, you go first.
Our evolution.
Yeah.
Yes. And if we evolve in terms of practicing goodness, what are the benefits for us? In the present and in the future.
We'll connect with God,
We will connect with God, we will connect with who else?
your spirituality.
Our spiritual guides, with our own spirituality, we will connect with our essence. Yes, the self, the divine part in us, where we bring the seeds of all the virtues within us. Is that making sense? And then if you carry on here on the slide, which says, when you have done all these, you will have a right to a soul rate. Spiritism is powerful because it is supported on the very basis of religion itself. God, the soul, future rewards and punishments. And especially because it shows such rewards and punishments to be the natural consequences of earthly life. How do we understand that now? Spiritism is powerful because it is supported on the very basis of religion. God, What do we understand about God in the present? Because I guess in the past we may have different understandings, but today, what do we understand about God? What is God? Do we ask who is God or what is God? What is God? Question one, the Spirit spoke, yes? And what is the answer?
The supreme intelligence, the first cause of everything.
Okay, and now translate that for us, Cynthia. We all are good in decorating. It's a very short question.
It means that God created everything with very intelligent laws, and being the supreme intelligence and the first cause of everything means there's nothing above God. And you need humbleness to understand that. Otherwise, you will think that we are above God. That's why also we suffer so much in life.
Yeah. So God created everything and every one of us, and we are the creatures. When we try to position ourselves in the Creator's place, we suffer because we are displaced in the universe. Is that making sense? When we bring ourselves back to our position and we learn through the natural laws in the universe, we bring ourselves back to the center, we diminish the suffering, and we increase the happiness. Even if you go through challenging moments, because we all have challenging moments are part of our learning. Is that making sense? Anything else that says God, the soul? What do we understand about soul? Are there different definitions about soul? Definitely?
Yeah.
Which
I think
one?
some people might say it's your true self or your essence, or it's just a way that connects to with God. Like it comes from not heaven, but
From above.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Other definitions of soul?
And then you know what the definitions of the introduction of the Spirit's book. And the one he says he will use throughout the book is soul meaning us, the spirit is the physical body. And then when he says the spirit is us without the physical body.
Correct. So soul he refers is only for us to distinguish as incarnate beings. We are the soul. Once we free ourselves through the disincarnation process, we go back to our origin, which is a spirit. The spirit is the immortal being that we all are, created by God, simple and ignorant, granted with the possibility throughout the different existence for us to grow ethically in terms of the real values in life and progress. And progression means conquering real happiness, stability on a psychological and emotional level, because we understand ourselves from a deeper perspective. We understand the laws of cause and effect. We understand what we do comes back to us. We are choosing to develop our free will in a rational way so that we become stronger in making our decisions. We become clearer in terms of our discernments. Anything else? Clear? Then we carry on to the next one, and it says, the picture it paints of the future contains nothing that can be contested by the most demanding reason. What do we understand with this first phrase? The picture it paints of the future contains nothing that can be contested by the most demanding reasons. Are we clear here? The pictures that is Spiritism paints of the future? Is that right? And which kind of pictures does Spiritism present of the future? When he says, contains nothing that can be contested by the most demanding reason. So about the immortality of the soul, yes, we cannot contest that, because even if I don't believe, if I'm not conscious yet, that is the reality, and sooner or later I will free myself from the physical body, I will go back to the spiritual world, I will carry on alive, and I will carry on my evolution. Yeah? But other aspects that we cannot contest. The immortality, the law of reincarnation, is that also? Yes, we don't die, we free ourselves from the physical body sooner or later, and later on we come back again to the school earth to carry on. This is the way that we progress, because one existence is not enough for us to evolve, to progress. We can just learn certain aspects in one existence. Because we have the time of it as a child, we don't learn much. Then we have the time as adolescents, we do more mistakes than learnings. Then we have the adults, then we are focused on working and study, and then suddenly, oh my God, I'm retired and I go back home. Yes, so we need a different existence to carry on learning about the natural laws. And what is the major point for us to be back on earth? You mentioned previously to progress. Progress in relation to what?
Yourself.
Yourself. Would it be right in saying that the major objective for us to be back on earth is to spiritualize ourselves? Because to spiritualize ourselves means to dematerialize ourselves, because we are not a physical body. We are not from this earth. We are just students learning here temporarily. So as more as we engage with the material aspect from a spiritual perspective, we are dematerializing and spiritualizing to the point that sooner or later, through the different existences, we promote ourselves to a different planet and we carry on our journey. Okay? Anything else on this side? Any doubt?
What about the most demanding reason?
What?
The most demanding reason.
That can be contested by the most demanding reason. The most demanding reason means those who may be very developed intellectually, but not morally. Because for us to understand the natural laws, there is the need for all of us to develop our intellectual intelligence and also our emotional intelligence. So I may be very developed intellectually, but not emotionally. Therefore, I will not perceive reality or the natural laws in essence. Is that making sense? But as all of us are progressing, sooner or later, that reality will be visible for us. Why? Because all of us have been created simple and ignorant, and we bring God's laws within ourselves. As more as we progress, we awake the natural laws within us. So whatever doesn't make sense to me now, tomorrow it will be. When I say tomorrow, could be in this existence or could be in next existence. Is that making sense? Anything else? And then we carry on. Whose doctrine consists entirely in denying the future, what compensation do you offer for the suffering in this world? If you stay with that statement, what do we learn with that? You, whose doctrine consists entirely in denying the future, what compensation do you offer for the suffering in this world? Do we understand the question? What is the question that St. Augustine is showing to us here? If we were to translate in our understanding the words here. You, whose doctrine consists entirely in denying the future, what compensation do you offer for the suffering in this world? How could we refer it in different words? Would it be right in saying, if I believe in materialism, that I believe that life is only in this existence and nothing more, what kind of elements do I have to offer to those who are suffering in this world? Is that what St. Augustine is telling us?
Yeah.
So how would we respond to that? Or do we have examples of that? How do people suffer on earth? For what reasons?
They're empty.
What?
They feel empty.
They feel empty. And which kind of information could I, from a materialistic way, offer to them? To stop or lessen the suffering?
You can't stop because you only think of physical matter. You don't see nothing more than physical. So how can you help those who are feeling empty? They can't feel the whole.
Correct. And what is the emptiness from a transpersonal perspective? Being from a spiritual perspective, what is the emptiness referring within us?
The lack of God.
The lack of God, the lack of spirituality, the lack of goodness, the lack of acceptance of reality. There is too much, let's say, pride and selfishness. And as more as we develop humbleness and charity, we flexibilize ourselves and we build new reference within based on the natural law. And that fulfills our emptiness and therefore diminishes the sufferings and increases the happiness. Is that making sense? Any other example that we may suffer on earth? We as human beings? Do people suffer when they lost a child? Because from a materialistic perspective, we say, oh my God, my child died, for example. Don't we say that? And then we suffer a lot because, my God, I never will see my child again. Isn't it? And how do we now read that experience from a spiritualist perspective?
You understand just a period of time you don't see your child, and when you die, you meet that child again.
Okay, so first we do understand that my child, let's give the example that my child is not my child. Sounds contradictory, isn't it? Why? Do we have an idea? My child is not my child.
It's the temporal my child.
My child is the child of God. who granted me the possibility to look after that child temporarily. And as no one dies, when it is the will of God that that child, that being goes back to the spiritual world, I haven't lost him or her. It's just God's will to carry on. The being will be still alive, and I will feel consoled and hopeful to understand that that child didn't die, is alive. And sooner or later in the spiritual world, we'll carry on seeing each other. That is very different than say that dead and that's it, and I will never see again. So it's quite consoling us. It's quite hopeful. Yeah? Other examples that we may be suffering from a materialistic way, the experience that we may undergo.
You are very rich and you lost your job.
Okay, so I'm
Job,
in a social position that I'm very rich. And somehow, as an immortal being, part of my program on earth may be, well, now let's test you where you are in taking away that, yes? Does it happen sometimes on earth? We can see it through the weather sometimes, isn't it? People have their houses which they build throughout life and all everything, and suddenly comes a flow of water, takes away everything. So if we don't have values which transcend the materiality, we can suffer quite a lot. But if we do, the social positions quite often also, because nothing is certain. I may have a very good job in a very good status, and suddenly with this crisis that goes on, financial crisis, my boss may say, well, make yourself redundant and stop that reality. So if I don't have values from the self level onwards that help me to accept it, I may even sometimes think about suicide. We can see people that do that sometimes because it's the social situation changed in such a way that we don't have psychological and emotional structure to cope with that. Is that making sense? Yeah. And then St. Augustine carries on. Of course, there are plenty of other examples. You support yourselves on this belief, whereas the Spiritism supports itself on the trust in God. It invites everyone to happiness, to hope, to true fraternity, whereas you offer them nothingness as a prospect and selfless as a consolation. What is St. Augustine teaching us here? Is he making a comparison? Is he?
Yeah.
In relation to what?
Between people who have materialistic views and people who are with God.
Okay.
So when you're with God, you can offer them true values such as happiness, fraternity, like was there, and if you don't, you just have nothing to offer.
Precisely. He is comparing the materialistic way of living and the spiritual way of living within the materialistic reality. Offer hope. Hope in relation to our struggles on earth. We all have struggles. We all go through challenging moments in our lives. But when we understand the essence of life as immortal beings and we are here to learn, that brings hopes to us. Understanding that we all go through phases which are challenging. But that is not a reality on an ongoing process. It's transitory. Yeah? And the objective of going through challenging moments is learning. It's never to punish. It's to learn. Is to promote ourselves, is to become better, is to become stronger within ourselves. Anything to add? No? Then we move on to the next one. Can you read, Cynthia?
Spiritism explains everything. You explain nothing. It proves by facts. You prove nothing. Why would you expect people to hesitate between those two doctrines?
How do we understand now the words of St. Augustine here? He carries on explaining the difference of the materialistic viewpoints and the holistic viewpoints, yeah? Spiritism explains everything, such as life from a transpersonal perspective, the cause of our sufferings. What are the cause of our sufferings? Do we all suffer? Of course we do. All of us, because we are learning. So what are the causes of suffering? We don't like suffering at all, isn't it?
Because
We don't have much.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Because we don't have knowledge.
We don't have knowledge
No.
about what? But we
Spiritual.
consider ourselves so intelligent, isn't it?
Knowledge about the spiritualism.
It's knowledge about the natural laws of life. Knowledge that I already, before coming back to this physical body, I have been living in different existences where I conquer experiences that quite often are not aligned with God. And now I granted the possibility to come back and carry on my journey as a learner, learning to love myself, learning to forgive myself, learning to promote myself spiritually, learning to develop goodness, learning to resignate myself in relation but I don't have control, learning to take responsibility of what I need to learn, understanding responsibilities of autonomy in terms of making wise choices that promotes hope and happiness, as we said previously. Anything else?
I believe the thinking heaven and hell, Kardec explains that every vice or every weakness we have has a suffering attached to it. So as we evolve and as we develop, let's say, more virtues and vices, then our suffering will lessen or become less.
Precisely. We suffer because of our ignorance, could be one of the reasons, yeah? We suffer because we learned wrong in the past experiences through materialism and through selfishness. And we also suffer because we are learning new experiences. We are learning new experiences. Let's imagine, for example, I'm a spirit who I have been evolving through centuries and centuries, but I have never gone through motherhood. Let's take an example. I'm just taking an example. I have never gone through that experience. Will that be easy for me at the beginning? No, the first experience in motherhood will be challenging, will be difficult, because I haven't had experience on that level. But as I go through, motherhood becomes easier for me. Is that making sense? So all of us, we go through to redo our past experiences, which are not balanced, aligned with the natural laws, and also to learn more new experiences that we find. And that can also cause suffering. It's almost like giving birth to ourselves, psychically speaking. Is that making sense? Okay, that was short. Now we carry on, it's still the conclusion, but we enter the part 6. It's still with St. Augustine. And here he says, it would be quite erroneous to believe that the power of Spiritism derives from the practice of material manifestations, and that, therefore, by hampering them, one could undermine its foundations. However, its power is in its philosophy and the appeal it makes to reason and common sense. How do we understand this power? If we were to explain according to our own reasoning.
The Spiritist manifestation gets a lot of criticism as here today, but Spiritism is much more than that. It's a philosophy that helps us to educate ourselves. I think this is where the power lies.
Mm-hmm. So not looking only on the physical phenomenal manifestations, yes? But looking towards the essence. Again, the major reason for us to be back on the school earth, it is to cooperate with our own education as immortal beings through this short time that we are here. That is quite empowering, isn't it? Because as children, all of us, we need to follow what mom and dad does and says and whatever. That is the natural law that we go through. But when we are adults, we are invited to be our own mother or our own father and to take responsibility and to educate ourselves within those natural laws in terms of promoting happiness, hope, real freedom. What do we need to develop in order to develop real freedom? Just came to my mind. How are we free? Really free, I mean truly free, on earth. Are we completely free on earth? Why not?
I think at this stage of evolution that we're not completely free because we still are under the laws of God. We are free to a certain extent, but when it comes to the point that our freedom harms others, then we resist our actions.
Mm-hmm.
But to have freedom, we need responsibility to learn experience and discipline.
Precisely. The freedom, which is a faculty that is given by God to every creature, all of us, needs to be developed by all of us. And then the free will is developed to the level that we develop responsibility for ourselves. If I keep on doing wrong, that will be a time that God's hand will come into action to protect myself. It's never to punish myself, it's to protect myself. How does it happen? Do we have examples of that?
Prayer is not answered.
Prayer is not answered. We always have to say something, pray, 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 because God will listen to you. But I'm praying and the opposite is happening. Is God listening to me? Yes or no?
When you pray, yes.
Sorry?
When you pray, yes.
But it's not giving me what I want. Is he listen to me?
Yes.
Why? Because I'm praying for something and the opposite is happening in my life. Is God listen to me? Because it's not good for me. Then the hands of God are present in my life. Through my ignorance, I may consider, may claim, and may cry, and may suffer. I'm praying, and God does not listen to me. When He is already protecting me, not giving to me what I would like to have, which I wouldn't be healthy for myself. Good. So how do we pray correctly then? Would it be in a way asking that God's will would always be above ours, as we are training our free will? Yeah. Anything else that we have here? No? That's clear, yes? In antiquity, it was the object of mysterious study, carefully hidden from the common folk. Today, it holds no secrets from anyone, and it speaks a clear language without ambiguity. There is neither mysticism in it, nor any allegories prone to erroneous interpretation. It wishes to be understood by all because the time has come to enable humankind to know the truth. How do we develop these now? Those are the words of St. Augustine. What is he trying to communicate to us?
Leon he teaches in the After Death, the book, that before, a long time ago, although there were Spiritist manifestations, there was a lot of knowledge that was not shared with everyone, only with certain people. But it's not the purpose of it. Spiritism today. I think it's the way it's written is accessible to everyone. You just need to make little effort to try to read and understand and live it.
Why was it hidden in the past? Because the Spiritism, is it bringing new knowledge or old knowledge in a new way?
Old knowledge in a new way, more accessible to us.
Precise. And why was it hidden in the past?
I would say because of pride, personal interest, just to keep the knowledge to ourselves.
How in the old days, how did religion teach us? Was the spiritual communication something natural? Was the immortality of the soul something natural? No. Imagine, what are you talking about? In my higher position here, now you come to say that perhaps through the law of reincarnation I may come back in next existence and do a simple job, or I'm very rich and you come tell me when you disincarnate, nothing belongs to you. So it was hidden because of our ignorance or our level of immaturity, spiritually speaking. And also, as Cynthia said, because a lot of religion people, they have the power in their hands that they want to keep the people in ignorance, to dominate. Now, Spiritism is very open. There's nothing hidden. It's actually the spirits are teaching us for us to study so that we understand it more and free ourselves from the old concepts that we may be bringing within. Any other idea? There is neither mysticism nor the allegories prone to erroneous interpretation. Do we still have mysticism today in the world, in the spiritual teachings? Yes? Examples.
There's a lot of mysticism
Speak a bit louder, I can hear you.
There's a lot of mysticism today, the lack of understanding of certain phenomena which we consider being not natural. Lots of advice to do through certain actions, such as wear certain clothes or certain actions and get certain results.
Oh, I see. Do certain clothes, then we would be closer to God.
Yeah.
Did we believe in the past in that? Of course we did. We may not believe today, but in the past we come from centuries and centuries of belief systems already. And even today, currently, still are people believing in it, isn't it? If you dress in white, you're closer to God. Don't believe it just happens that I'm white. Because no one is closer to God, just what we dress outside. It's only when we come white within. And it's not using bleach. What do we need to use? What do we need to use in terms of becoming whiter within?
Have a principle morality, like develop yourself in spiritual way, and ask the will of God to guide you and understand the things we just have a time, the period of time we deserve to learn something, score what we need learning.
So it's almost like to cleanse our own psychological and emotional rubbish, which means our previous values that all of us bring on our unconscious level, which don't make sense anymore, or which do not help us to balance ourselves in the present. So this part, as was mentioned previously, to re-educate ourselves. Yeah, correct? Anything else that we take from here? Mysticism also, sometimes people still find it very odd when we talk about Spiritist communications. Then we think, oh my God, you see spirits? We still are with this impression. And when we study Spiritism, what happens with those belief systems?
It's natural.
It's natural. Why is it natural?
Because you understand that it's not a physical world, you have this other plane that you can see people, but they're not alive, like they're not physical, they're just like spirits, as you said.
They are alive, but they are without a physical body.
Yeah.
So for us, when we study the natural laws of life, we are all immortal. And when we are on earth, we have around 4 to 5 times more spirits on earth who are without a physical body than us who are with a physical body. And no one is alone. Whenever we are, there's a group of people around us. And who are those who are with us, who are out of the physical body? Who are those spirits who may be with us, who are without a physical body? We are with a physical body, but we have a lot of beings who are with us without a physical body. Who are those? Angels? Oh, that would be good if you have plenty of angels.
Yeah, they're kind of angels. They're not called angels, they're called, what is it called?
Spirits.
Yeah, spirits. They're friends.
Spirits. Are we all followed by angels?
No.
By spiritual friends? No. Why not?
Some of these spirits, maybe they are not friendly.
Okay.
Maybe they are lost. Maybe they need guidance.
Okay,
as well.
sometimes I may be with spirits who are lost. Others may be without guidance and they find resonance with my psychological and emotional reality. Who else?
Resonance is the word.
That's depending your vibration of your.
Those who may not like me, those who may hate me from the past, those who may be lost in the world will also have this kind of references, yeah? How do we interact spiritually? Ourselves incarnate with those who are without a physical body. How do we interact? Because we can speak through a word, but they don't have the physical body, so how do we communicate?
We can't see that, but then
They can see us,
Yes.
but how do we communicate? All of us cannot see them.
No, the people who have more mature spiritual way, they can see the spirits, talk to the spirits. But that's just the people who's more mature. The most of the people is not mature, they're immature in spiritual way, they can't see.
Only those who are more mature spiritually who can see each other.
These
And how about the ostensive mediums? Are they mature? Quite often not. We are through the faculty of ostensive mediumship to develop maturity. But when we come back through the ostensive mediumship and we have there, which is the faculty that we see? Spirits? Which is the faculty that we see spirits?
forgotten, I know.
Clairvoyance? Yes, we see the spirits. We have that spiritual faculty. If I'm not ostensive medium, I don't see beyond my physical senses. But those who have that sense will see sometimes the spirits. They look at us and say, well, I see who is behind you, I see what is you, yeah? And as more as we study, we know that no one is alone, either in our homes, in our works, when we work on the streets, even here. We are few incarnates here, but these incarnates, the room is full. Also studying with us. A lot who came with us are also blessed to receive the information, so that they can also make different meanings and understanding for themselves. Is that making sense?
It's 5 times more than incarnate.
It's 5 times more. So no worries, no one is alone. The major point is, who is with me? That is the question. No one is alone. But we need to observe then, and my question is still is not responded. Which is the way that we communicate with each other? Those are thoughts and feelings. So we need to develop self-awareness to become aware what we think and what we feel, because that is the way that we communicate. In the spiritual world, the way of communication between the spirits is thinking and feeling. And here, when we are in the physical body, we use the verbal language. But we also, when we think and feel, we are communicating. So if I feel happy, I will be with happy beings. If I learn to be honest, I will be connected with honest spirits. If I'm selfish, I will be connected with selfish people. That making sense? And we all have the interior autonomy to choose. If I'm unhappy as a learner, which we all go through, I can go through that experience, but it's still connected with the superior spirits, can I? How can that happen? If it just said that the way that I think and feel, we are connecting with other spirits. How can I be going through an vulnerable situation and yet be connected with the superior spirits? Is that possible?
You ask them to guide you. Like, if you're going through a difficult situation, although it's really hard, you know that they're with you, and you shouldn't give up because they're still there supporting you.
Okay. And what else do I need to do to receive their support? Because they're always there. I sometimes say, I want to look in that direction. But how do I do that? Would it be right in saying through prayer? Could also be to study. And then I realize, I'm here very fixed in my idea, very negative. Let's not change that. Humbleness, persistence in training ourselves in doing good, that also attracts the good beings, because we all have weak moments or challenging moments. But as long as we keep on the healthy part of us, we keep on the connection with the good spirits. Is that making sense? So God created us always with the inner freedom for us never to choose to be disconnected for the greater power. We all train that faculty, and therefore, in our new learnings, in our challenging moments, we always, and usually in the challenging moments, when we connect through prayer, through understanding, through goodness within, those are the moments that our spiritual benefactors are more close to us. Because they are there. They are brothers and sisters in humanity who really, truly love us. They know that being on earth sometimes is very challenging for us, but they are there to support us, to inspire us. Stay in the experience, learn from the experience, renew your thinking, renew your change, and the experience moves on, because nothing is static on earth. But it's very challenging now that can change tomorrow, because everything renews through the law of evolution. Evolution is change. Is that clear?
Negative beliefs create energy surrounding negative, but not external. In a sense, they are not outside experience, but they are your own creation.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. We call that within Spiritism self-obsession. Because my way of thinking and feeling is a way that I will be connecting with myself. I will be communicating with myself through the conscious and unconscious level. And I may bring on the unconscious my old systems, my old belief systems, which are very negative. And if they come now to the conscious level and I keep on thinking in a very negative way, I'm feeding myself in a negative way, and there may be no one outside influencing me. It's me influencing myself in a limited negative way. Very good sentence.
Sometimes it can be seen as magic, or then it's your own mistake.
It can be.
It's your own.
Yes, and if I'm very irresponsible, let's say in my journey of evolution, I didn't learn much about responsibility, then I will be very easy projecting my shadows on others. And I say, well, they are the spirits who are here. I'm so disturbed because of the spirits. That quite often happens. And that's not so. That is the projection. Because even if they are the spirits influencing me from the external side, they only can influence me through mind aspects that I bring on my unconscious mind. So it still is my responsibility. Because they can never influence someone, for example, to be depressed if I don't bring some aspects of that. So if I now become aware in a loving way, I develop my self-acceptance and I take responsibility, which is autonomy, I make effort to change my thinking, I will change these old patterns that I bring. Because what happens is I will override my memory. That is the power that we bring with them. Is that clear? Is that clear? Okay. So we move on to the next one then, which says, would you like to read the first, please?
Far from opposing the diffusion of the lights, it desires light for all. It does not demand blind faith, but wants everyone to know why they believe. And since it is based on reason, it will always be more powerful than doctrines based on nothingness.
Would you like to comment? How did you understand it? Okay, how do we understand this? This part of St. Augustine's teachings. He starts by saying the first part, far from opposing the diffusion of the light, it desires light for all. How can we translate that part? Say it again.
It's a religion for everyone.
It's a religion for everyone. And what do we understand about religion? Are there different definitions of religion on earth? So when Spiritism says that Spiritism is a science, philosophy, and religion, what do we understand about religion?
It brings us closer to God.
Yes, in which way? That model I haven't learned. When we say religion within Spiritism, we are talking about the love that comes from God. The essence of the gospel is love. It's for us to learn to love ourselves, to love others, to love Father God, to love the experience, isn't it? Yes? Yes, when he says then, light for everyone, light for all. But what comes to our minds? How can that happen? Are there people who don't want to know about light? Yes or no? Yes. And how do we say now, light for all? Even if I choose, I don't want to see the light. Sometimes when we work mediumistically, on the practical level, that we help spirits when they come into light, it's too much light, I don't want to see it. Can we as incarnate sometimes do that? How do we do that? When do we do that?
Laziness.
Laziness, pride, yes.
You want to see the true, you know the things right, but people deny that.
I know in my intellectual level already that is right, but emotionally still have pleasure in carrying on my old systems. I'm also denying the light. Because we are all under the light, but I can temporarily shut my eyes, let's put it in that way. But it's transitory. What is the consequence for us to ignore the light that comes from God? Are there consequences? Suffering. I will be in the darkness of myself, the emptiness that you said previously, and that brings suffering to the soul, because we have been created by God with love in order to learn to love. Each time that I switch off the law of command, I will suffer. And the suffering is not good, but it's healthy. Sounds contradictory. It's not good because it's very uncomfortable, but it's healthy because it helps us to drive ourselves back to the center, to forgive ourselves, to love, to learn, and carry on in a hopeful way. And then he does not demand blind faith, but wants everyone to know why they believe. And since it is based on reason, it will always be more powerful than doctrines based on nothingness. How would we translate this part?
It makes you free, doesn't it? It says it's not a blind faith. It's not making you blind. Like it helps you to see the truth.
Okay. My question would be, what do we understand about blind faith?
It's when they have those laws that you need to follow, but they might be discriminating others, for example. Like, I think one example I would give, like Christianity, they say homosexuality is wrong. I think that is blind faith, because if God created us with love, why can we not love everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have those, discriminations against others because of their sexuality, because of their color, or because of the gender? I think that's why sometimes faith can be blinding.
Mm-hmm. And the blind faith, apart from what you said, is it based on temporal or atemporal values? Temporal. Body level.
Yeah.
Yes, if you look at that, and of course, as you well mentioned, as homosexuality, well, that's wrong. Who says so? If we challenge ourselves within the laws of God, which are within, and God is love, Do we think that God would have preferences? Would love the hetero more than homosexual? Of course, it doesn't make sense that it is said here. There would be a reason for that. God created us and we are all beings of love. And he loves us all, heterosexuals, homosexuals. We are all children of God. We are all beings of love within. God would never have those prejudices. Those prejudices are creations of our limited minds. From an epoch, from an era where we are coming through the journey of evolution, where we also went through blind faith. How did it happen? In our state of evolution, where we weren't stimulated to think for ourselves. We just sit there and someone said, well, this is right, this is wrong. We say, yes, no, yes, no. No, now, Spiritism is helping us. Wait a minute. What do you think about this? We need to learn to think for ourselves. Is that making sense? Okay. Anything else that we have here? Blind faith is not what Spiritism teaches us. Spiritism teaches us rational faith. It's the opposite of blind faith. The rational faith is learn to think, learn to rationalize within the universal laws. Then we develop the new belief systems that bring safety and security within us. Now carry on here on the next one, which St. Augustine teaches us. Could the obstacles that have been set up against the free expression of a spirit manifestation silence them? What do we understand about the first phrase here, if you don't move further? Could the obstacles that have been set up against the free expression of a spirit manifestation silence them? How do we understand this?
Sometimes it can, but I don't think most people do get silenced by obstacles. Because I've seen so many people that when they have those obstacles is when they're most strong.
Okay, which kind of obstacles here, when St. Augustine says, could the obstacles that have been set up against the free expression of spirit manifestation silence them? Which kind of obstacles were there?
There were challenges to make you grow as a person. So I think, like we said previously, losing a job, for example, or losing someone close to you.
Okay. Would I also be right throughout history, the obstacles that were presented for us not to validate the communication within the spirits? Does that make sense? Could we impede them to talk? No, because the spirits are free, as we mentioned previously. They think and feel and they carry on talking. Which kind of obstacle we also had throughout history, apart from what we said, to silence the manifestation of the spirits? Sorry? Burned witches, that happens throughout history, gosh, it did. Because those witches, who were or who are the witches? Because these days still people say sometimes. Mediums. Within Spiritism, the witches in the past are mediums. What are mediums?
People communicate with the spirits, receive spirits. Like
mediums are spirits, immortal beings, children of God, created by God, who have the faculty to see, to talk, to listen, to hear the spirits. And of course, through our ignorance, say, oh my God, we need to burn that cannot be coming alive here. And we did throughout the human history, if we study, we burn them. Did we really burn them?
If we do what we're doing now, I think so 300 years ago, we will be burned as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But did we burn the witches? Did we burn the witches? Why not? We cannot burn the spirits. Through our ignorance about their essence, we burn the bodies. But we are not the bodies. The witches, mediums, the spirits carry on alive. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that making sense? Okay. And then no such obstacles would have the effect of all other prohibitions, that of exciting curiosity and the desire to investigate what is being prohibited. On the other hand, if a spirit's manifestations were the personal privilege of only a single individual, no one would doubt that if that individual were out of the way, the manifestations would cease. How do we understand this last part of St. Augustine's words? What comes to our minds here? If you were to say it within our own words, how would that be?
We see spirits manifestation
on different places. Even if you read the Old Testament,
Correct. Correct. If you study the Old Testaments, we see that as well. And of course, we have our difficulty in seeing it in that way. So in that way, we are coming to the end of our studies today, because our time is coming to the end. And as always, we finalize it with a simple prayer for us to conclude our meeting today. In these moments that we are coming to the end of this loving environment, that we are all connected with the beings of light, beings of love, who love us, who care about us, who inspire us, for us to perceive ourselves as immortal beings, as beings essentially of love, light, and peace, who have been granted the possibility for us to study, to reflect here today about the natural laws of life, developing our reasoning according to the teachings of St. Augustine, and in that way knowing that so much has been done for us to be here by the spiritual benefactors, we express our gratitude towards God, our Creator, who created us with love and mercy, towards Jesus, our guide and brother, towards the enlightened beings who helped us, ourselves and all of those in the Spirit. May we all feel the blessings of peace, of light and tenderness, feeling protected, surrounded and blessed, as we carry on feeling stronger in our journey of learning as immortal beings. So be it.